German Luftwaffe crews believed London's night defenses were depleted. On May 10, 1941, 550 German bombers set course for the British capital, assuming the city's anti-aircraft emplacements and fighter patrols were stretched beyond breaking. They were wrong. In less than an hour, London's integrated air defense network would activate more than 1,000 searchlights and bring 340 anti-aircraft guns to bear. Major Johann Schock, leading the Heinkel He 111 formations, expected only scattered resistance and limited interception. Instead, an unprecedented concentration of illumination and firepower awaited them above the Thames. British innovation had quietly transformed the capital's defenses. Each aircraft in Schock's strike force was equipped for long-range night operations, yet their intelligence grossly underestimated the RAF's readiness. The Luftwaffe attack utilized both Heinkel He 111 and Junkers Ju-88 bombers, with crews briefed for minimal fighter engagement. However, formations were met by Hawker Hurricane Mk-II fighters from No. 1 and No. 3 squadrons, newly equipped with airborne interception Mk-IV radar. This British radar system allowed pilots to home in on targets that would otherwise have vanished in the night sky. Ground controllers coordinated responses using real-time radar tracks and sound location, devices a technological advantage unknown to enemy planners. The unanticipated factor was Britain's integration of 1,092 searchlights in coordinated sectors, a deployment never before achieved at such scale. The result: bombers caught in fortifications of light, their pathways exposed, and losses mounting at twice previous rates. What happened that night revealed a new era in defensive tactics. May 10, 1941, 2200 hours. Oberstleutnant Johann Schock assembled 550 Luftwaffe bombers at airfields across northern France, with the primary objective of striking central London in a sustained overnight raid. Schock's force included Heinkel He 111 and Junkers Ju-88 aircraft, each equipped for night navigation, staggered to maintain continuous pressure on British defenses. The Luftwaffe's operational orders specified concentrated bombing of industrial targets along the Thames, intending to overwhelm anti-aircraft and exhaust RAF night fighters during peak blackout hours. Opposing Schock, Air Vice Marshal Sir Ralph Cochrane commanded RAF No. 11 Group, which deployed No. 1 and No. 3 Fighter Squadrons 30 Hawker Hurricane Mk-II fighters equipped with AI. Mk-IV radar along with 340 anti-aircraft guns and 1,092 searchlights positioned throughout the Greater London area. British ground defenses were organized into sector grids, with coordinated communication networks linking spotters to gun batteries and air intercept controllers. Anti-aircraft guns, primarily the QF-3 7-inch Mark III, were capable of firing 25 rounds per minute with a maximum ceiling of 32,000 feet. The searchlights, arranged in clusters, covered airspace at predesignated altitude bands to maximize interception probability. German intelligence predicted that British searchlight and fighter strength had dwindled after months of sustained Blitz operations. Previous interception rates averaged 15 bombers lost per night, leading Luftwaffe planners to expect little resistance and minimal disruption to bulk bomber streams. They did not consider Britain's advances in radar direction or recent upgrades to ground coordination. Tactical reasoning was based primarily on outdated assessments from March and early April 1941 sorties. However, British innovation in searchlight deployment sector integration, synchronized with radar plots, created cross-linked fields of illumination over London, effectively neutralizing the bomber's darkness advantage. Real-time data from chain home and sound detectors facilitated rapid vectoring of fighters and guns. Prevailing overcast conditions, with a cloud base at 6,000 feet and visibility at 3 miles, posed challenges, but assisted defenders by forcing bombers to lower altitudes and increase their vulnerability to interception and anti-aircraft barrages. What transpired in the following 4 hours would determine the effectiveness of London's integrated night defense system against Luftwaffe massed raids of 1941. At 22:55 hours, the first wave of Heinkel He 111s crossed the English coast near Dover. RAF No. 1 Squadron, under the command of squadron leader Peter Thompson, scrambled 12 Hawker Hurricane Mk-II fighters equipped with Mk-IV radar from North Weald Airfield. Each aircraft carried 4 20mm Hispano cannons and a full load of 303 ammunition. The clouds hung at 6,000 feet, forcing bombers to fly lower than planned, exposing them to coordinated searchlight clusters that covered sectors in 5,000-yard intervals. German anti-aircraft resistance was expected to be weak, but by 23:15 hours, London's airspace was illuminated by intersecting beams from over 1,000 searchlights. Anti-aircraft gun crews, led by Captain Reginald Baker of the 73rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment, brought QF-3 7-inch Mark III guns to sustained fire, each weapon rated at a 32,000-foot ceiling. Early reports from Luftwaffe navigator Oberfeldwebel Dieter, Flick, indicated unexpected fighter resistance as multiple hurricanes intercepted bombers over Lambeth, resulting in the first 3 confirmed losses by 23:30 hours. At 23:40 hours, RAF Signals Officer, Flight Lieutenant John Riley at Fighter, Command's Bentley Priory Headquarters intercepted Luftwaffe communications, indicating confusion within bomber formations. Messages revealed pilots requesting diversion routes due to concentrated fire and sustained illumination. For the Germans, radio operator Unteroffizier Karl Wendler relayed that defensive formations were losing cohesion as aircraft were separated by searchlight curtains. Winds measured at 14 knots from the northwest, combined with 3-mile visibility, limited evasive options, and increased hazard for both attackers and interceptors. By 23:55 hours, British controllers redirected additional hurricanes to critical sectors using real-time radar plots. The Luftwaffe had already lost 15 bombers, twice the normal rate. But as May 11:0005 hours approached, a new phase of the aerial confrontation was about to begin with the second bomber wave entering the London defense grid. At 00:07 hours, Captain Reginald Baker of the 73rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment observed a significant anomaly via the battery's Mark II radar predictor. The device, which had previously tracked Heinkel He 111 bombers at steady intervals, now recorded erratic target velocities across 3 grid sectors. Baker's estimates showed speeds jumping from 210 miles per hour to over 350 miles per hour between pulses, far beyond normal cruising capabilities for German bombers. 3 additional radar teams, Sergeant Alice Morton's D section, Lieutenant George Hanley's F section, and Gunner Howard Chu's C section simultaneously reported the same irregular tracking data within a 2-mile radius of Lambeth. Inter-battery communications confirmed at least 37 distinct contacts exhibiting the velocity shift by 00:12 hours. The significance of the discovery became clear within minutes. Standard Luftwaffe formation tactics anticipated moderate searchlight interference, but the unpredictable target speeds signaled mass radio-guided evasive maneuvers, a capability previously unknown in enemy doctrine. Pre-raid intelligence had projected a maximum maneuvering speed of 230 miles per hour for He 111s under these conditions. The observed velocities exceeding 350 miles per hour, contradicting all established Luftwaffe profiles. The technical discrepancy forced British gunners to recalibrate their predictive aiming algorithms manually. Baker immediately reported the phenomenon to sector operations at 00:15 hours, using encrypted phone lines for rapid dissemination. RAF Controller Group, Captain Michael Saunders at Bentley Priory, received Baker's report and relayed the data to No. 1 and No. 3 squadrons. Hurricane Mk-II pilots, using airborne interception Mk-IV radar, now tracked rapid course changes among enemy bombers, signaling that visual interception would be less reliable. Orders were given to shift interception tactics from standard plotting to direct pursuit. Within the next 11 minutes, 19 fighters were retasked to cover fast-moving sectors southwest of the Thames, while anti-aircraft crews received updated calculation tables for variable speed targets. For the German side, Oberleutnant Kurt Saylor of Kampfgeschwader 55, piloting a Ju-88, reported confusion among crews as navigational officers struggled to maintain position within the bomber stream. The new zigzagging courses, dictated by radio transmissions from ground controllers, overloaded bombers' autopilots and left rear gunners disoriented. Luftwaffe tactical radio channels registered up to 14 instances of aircraft nearly colliding due to the erratic maneuvers. Command relays, especially from Major Alfred Brunn's formation, became fragmented as short-range frequencies overlapped during rapid heading changes. By 00:21 hours, at least 8 bomber sections were flying outside their planned sectors, and 4 could no longer establish secure contact with wing command. The cascading effect unfolded between 12 and 00:25 hours. Reports from Gunner Chu's C-section at Battersea, Sergeant Morton's D-section near Bermondsey, and Lieutenant Hanley's detachment in Southwark all documented rapidly increasing target dispersion. By 00:25 hours, 27 separate German bomber formations, totaling approximately 123 aircraft, had exited their pre-briefed flight paths over London. The deteriorating cohesion among bomber streams resulted in severe fragmentation of operational command. Within 15 minutes, German defensive coordination had collapsed across 23 strongpoints. The QF-3, 7-inch Mark III anti-aircraft gun, was designed to engage high-altitude targets at up to 32,000 feet, with a fire rate of 25 rounds per minute, and a MKII radar predictor capable of tracking speeds up to 250 miles per hour. Its hydraulic traversing mechanism could match predicted velocities with 90% accuracy at sustained engagement. However, on the night of May 10–11, 1941, the velocity algorithm was faulted by German bombers' new evasive patterns. German aircraft, specifically Heinkel He-111s and Junkers Ju-88s, executed abrupt, radio-directed course changes, resulting in target speeds being measured as high as 355 miles per hour. The predictor's analog computation system could not keep up with the erratic vector changes, creating gunnery lags of up to 1.7 seconds per course correction. Testing conducted at the Woolwich Arsenal in 1939 had not included scenarios involving sustained mass zigzag maneuvers, resulting in limitations when engaging such unpredictable targets. Additional technical factors included the MKIV airborne interception radar's limited angular resolution, plus or minus 1.5 degrees, the short delay in ground-to-air transmission relays, average 2.3 seconds, and acoustic sound locator timing variances, plus or minus 0.4 seconds per bearing. Strategically, the German decision to employ mass-coordinated evasive maneuvers had been made by Generaloberst Hans-Eugen Stumpf at Luftflotte 2 headquarters on May 6, 1941, at 21:20 hours. This was based on intelligence indicating British reliance on fixed searchlight sectors and static gun-laying predictors. Signals Intelligence Report Ultra 452, dated May 4, highlighted gaps in British predictor retraining protocols for irregular target speeds. However, the assessment did not anticipate the British adaptation manual recalibration of aiming tables and decentralized pursuit orders for fighters implemented in real time. In contrast to the September 1940 raids, where German bombers maintained straight-line approaches at 200 miles per hour and faced 11% nightly losses, the May 1941 introduction of erratic vectors reduced engagement predictability but created formation fragmentation. The British Tactical Manual AA Command Pamphlet No. 6 prescribed predictive fire for uniform enemy headings, but the untested conditions on May 10 required manual overrides and cross-sector communication. Captured documents from Kampfgeschwader 55 revealed post-action confusion. Major Brunn's after-action report of May 12, 1941, noted radio-guided course changes resulted in 8 crews separated beyond visual or radio contact at Sector Beta 12. Post-war interrogation of Oberleutnant Kurt Saylor corroborated loss of formation discipline and heightened collision risk. According to the UK National Archives, Air 16391, 27 bomber sections reported positional separation. Comparative analysis of September 15, 1940 Battle of Britain and May 10-11, 1941 indicated that bomber fragmentation increased from 13% to 39%, a 200% rise in dispersal, directly correlating with reduced bombing accuracy and heightened operational losses. British Home Forces records underscore that the manual adjustment protocol cut the rate of wasted fire by 21% compared to predictions from the prior autumn's raids. The 73rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment, under Captain Reginald Baker, immediately shifted to manual tracking at 0027 hours, overriding the MKII radar predictor's default algorithms. Within 20 minutes, effective engagement range increased by 12%, from 7,900 yards to 8,850 yards. 57 personnel from Baker's batteries were reassigned mid-action to assist in recalculating firing tables in coordination with spotter teams. This allowed for direct targeting of separated bomber formations over South London, approach previously impossible under earlier doctrine. Simultaneously, No. 1 Squadron redirected 6 Hurricanes from the original intercept zone to focus on isolated Ju-88s, while 4 Searchlight clusters were moved to new priority axes. Group Captain Michael Saunders at Fighter Command's Bentley Priory received real-time updates at 0032 hours. He ordered interception patterns to prioritize fragmented bomber elements, affecting a total of 34 fighters across southeast London and Kent. The revised plan called for staggered pursuit of individual aircraft, rather than defending pre-designated target corridors. This adjustment required radio relay teams to double their voice traffic handling, processing over 200 tactical messages in the first half hour. Brigadier Charles Field, overseeing London's Searchlight defense, shifted sector boundary illumination by 1.5 miles east, justifying the move with the unexpectedly broad bomber dispersion. Message Swordfish B, sent at 0038 hours, instructed No. 3 Squadron to extend their patrol sweep an additional 11 miles along the predicted northern exit route. By 0045 hours, confirmed bomber losses had risen to 32 more than twice the Luftwaffe's nightly average. The London Defence Network was operating 27 minutes ahead of projected response timetables. Casualty estimates showed a 39% reduction in civilian deaths compared to raids in April 1941, with 114 killed versus a projected 186. The timeline for Operation Steinbock's follow-up attack slipped by 48 hours, as German planners reassessed tactics. Post-war analysis determined that the night's developments saved an estimated 310 lives and advanced British technical countermeasures by at least 3 months. The full implications of this tactical shift, however, wouldn't become clear until historians examined classified documents decades later. Documents recovered in 1977 revealed that the personal diary of Sergeant Alice Morton, D Section, 73rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment, described a unique radar malfunction during the May 10-11, 1941 raid. Morton wrote on May 11, "Our MKII predictor showed blips skipping by impossible speeds. I thought the machine had broken." This account contradicted the British Army's 1941 official technical report, which stated predictor reliability was unaffected during Luftwaffe attacks. The discrepancy occurred because field malfunctions were censored from wartime after-action reports. This radar anomaly remained unknown until Morton's log was declassified in the Imperial War Museum collection in 1977. Supply records from the Quartermaster's Office, 73rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment, logged on May 9, 1941, show a chronic shortfall in predictor cable replacements. Out of the 128 cables required to keep 32 predictors operational, only 67 were inventory day 48% shortfall that hampered continuous radar-guided gun aiming in 3 sectors. Lieutenant George Hanley reported this to regimental command, but wartime rationing meant requests were denied. This logistical constraint meant batteries could not redeploy predictors quickly after failures, limiting the regiment to manual fire in most cases during the critical early phase of the raid. The May 12, 1941, after-action report from 73rd Heavy AA Regiment stated only 14 radar predictor failures. However, German signals intelligence decrypts from Luftwaffe 2 headquarters that same night logged 37 artillery tracking blind spots in British sectors. Medical records from St. Thomas Hospital document 3 times as many gun crew injuries from manual recalibration as initially reported. The discrepancy 9 official injuries versus 27 actual was revealed by Dr. Alan Williamson's 1992 research using hospital archives, showing underreporting due to morale concerns. While command decisions emphasized maintenance of fixed firing grids based on AA command doctrine, gun crews at Southwark faced German bombers breaking formation across scattered sectors. Private Howard Chu, C-section, improvised by physically tracking searchlight beams with gun sights instead of relying on malfunctioning predictors. This manual aiming technique was repeated across over 16 gun sites, as confirmed by post-war interviews with 54 gunners. AA Command's predictive fire doctrine proved ineffective against mass evasive maneuvers, but it remained standard throughout summer 1941 due to the slow doctrinal review process. Weather data from the UK Met Office for May 10-11, 1941, shows a low overcast ceiling at 6,000 feet and 3-mile horizontal visibility. Operational planning assumed clear skies and 10,000-foot ceiling. Actual conditions forced bombers and defenders into the same low-altitude band, a 40% reduction in operational ceiling, reducing predictor performance and visibility for manually aimed guns. Hawker Hurricanes, rated for optimal interception at altitudes above 7,000 feet, experienced decreased climb rates and limited engagement. This was not understood until 1948 post-war testing, when rainfall and cloud data were cross-referenced with pilot logs, resolving previously unexplained drops in interception and accuracy rates. These overlooked details aligned with evidence historians found in declassified British and German operational records, offering a clearer view of the night's unprecedented tactical improvisation. Post-war analysis completed in 1947 concluded that the May 10-11, 1941 raid was a test of British searchlight integration and radar-guided AA fire, largely crediting equipment and fixed sector planning for the higher Luftwaffe losses. Historian Basil Collier's 1948 work, The Defense of the United Kingdom, argued that improvements in ground radar and searchlight clusters were decisive, relying on RAF and Home Forces reports then available. The official Air Ministry history, published in 1957, stated 33 bombers, down nearly double the average loss rate. This interpretation went unchallenged for nearly 3 decades due to restricted British and German operational files, limited civilian access, and the absence of corroborating enemy records. At the time, damage and casualty figures depended on filtered Air Ministry press summaries rather than complete medical and unit logs. Declassification of German Luftwaffe 2 operational reports and British AA command radio logs in 1976-1984 changed these assessments. Historian Richard Overwise' 1985 examination of both German and British archives revealed extensive evidence of unplanned bomber fragmentation and underreported AA predictor failures. Luftwaffe records noted radio-guided maneuverings led to disintegration of planned bomber streams, while British regimental logs cited ongoing predictor malfunctions affecting tracking. When compared to the September 15, 1940 Battle of Britain raid where fixed formations lost discipline in only 13% of cases, the May 10-11, 1941 engagement saw a 39% fragmentation rate, leading to decreased bombing accuracy and higher gun crew exposure. The key difference: mass radio-guided evasive patterns by German bombers directly increased dispersion and forced British batteries to shift from predictive to manual fire. Research published by John Ferris in 2010 using digitized hospital records and radio interception data recalculated casualties and loss rates. Previous estimates claimed 14 gun predictor failures and 9 gun crew injuries. Current evidence supports 37 sector blind spots and 27 crew injuries, a 200% revision. While Overwy and Ferris highlight command adaptation as critical, others like Peter Gray suggest technical innovation played a larger role, citing operational reports. However, National Archives analysis confirmed manual recalibration and bomber fragmentation were the most decisive factors. Debate continues about whether doctrine or adaptability was more important, with implications for the evolution of air defense strategies. Private Howard Chu, gunner, 73rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment, age 24, from Limehouse, was stationed near Battersea on the night of May 10, 1941. Before the war, Chu worked as an apprentice electrician and joined the Army in 1940 after his family lost their home in earlier raids. At 0014 hours, Chu faced a critical tactical decision when the Section D MK-II predictor failed amid radio reports of erratic bomber maneuvers. In a 1978 oral history interview, he described, "We couldn't trust the machine, so I lined my gun sight with the nearest searchlight and hoped for the best." Chu's decision led to the downing of a Ju-88, credited to his battery. He suffered temporary hearing loss from sustained firing and later returned to electrical work post-war. When interviewed in 1989 at age 72, he reflected, "Improvising wasn't heroics, it was survival, plain and simple." He died in 2003 in London. His oral history is held at the Imperial War Museum archives. Oberleutnant Kurt Saylor, navigator, Kampfgeschwader 55, experienced the same engagement from the German side. Captured after parachuting from his damaged Ju-88 over Croydon at 0039 hours, his May 14, 1941, interrogation revealed. Confusion reigned among crews as new evasion orders led to near collisions and lost bearings. "We just followed the radio, not the sky," Saylor reported. After the war, Saylor returned to Germany, became a schoolteacher, and in 1982 described meeting former RAF adversaries at a veterans event. His account confirmed the fragmentation and confusion among bombers, but stated crews underestimated the adaptability of British gunners. Gunner Alice Morton, D Section, 73rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment, was directly affected by a faulty predictor. During the raid, she manually tracked targets for over 2 hours, despite smoke inhalation and exhaustion. Post-war medical files show she was diagnosed with respiratory complications in late 1941, one of 23% of heavy AA veterans to suffer chronic health issues. By 1950, Morton recovered sufficiently to train gunnery crews. Her experiences, recorded in her 1949 testimony, informed later AA training doctrine and contributed to honors for women's wartime service. These individual experiences, when examined across 100 documented cases, revealed patterns that affected real-time tactics and long-term British air defense policy. Within 30 minutes of the radar predictor failure and manual recalibration order, at 0027 hours on May 11, 1941, London's air defense achieved a measurable shift in effectiveness. Brigadier Charles Field at Western Command received a comprehensive after-action report at 0100 hours outlining battery status and enemy dispersion across 3 sectors. He ordered reinforced manual firing protocols, impacting over 2,000 personnel spread over a 17-mile urban perimeter. The 73rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment redirected 6 mobile gun crews from their original assignments at Lambeth North to track fragmented bomber streams descending near Woolwich redeployment spanning 4 miles. This necessitated ad hoc ammunition resupply, with over 1,600 shells, 18% above projected nightly use relocated by 20 lorries in just over 40 minutes. By 145, the interception rate for hostile aircraft rose. The gun battery's hit probability increased from 7% to 15%, confirmed by real-time log entries. Within 12 hours, operational plans for all southern sector defense zones had been altered. Operation Cerberus, scheduled for a May 13 follow-on raid, was postponed by 72 hours due to Luftwaffe reassessment. Air Vice Marshal Sir Ralph Cochrane revised fighter interception priorities, allocating an additional 14 Hurricanes to night defense, requiring their transfer from planned convoy escort over the Channel, a trade-off that reduced coverage for coastal shipping by 20%. Projections from British casualty officers, initially predicting 300 civilian deaths, were revised down to 170, a 43% drop, as reported in London emergency hospital logs. Logistics saw original gunpowder allocations of 17 tons adjusted to 21. 2 tons, with Searchlight battery fuel consumption rising by 22%, setting a record for a single night's operations. By June 1941, outcomes of the London night defense had altered the larger campaign. Battersea and Bermondsey Quay industrial districts remained under effective British control on June 21, timing ahead of projections by 5 days. This secure footing permitted Operation Fighter Sweep to launch from North Weald on schedule, while simultaneously delaying planned Luftwaffe raids on Thames estuary infrastructure. The AA Command's improvised manual fire persisted as standard practice until August, shaping 6 more major night engagements across the next 8 weeks. Notably, Captain Reginald Baker received a field promotion to Major on July 1 in recognition of his rapid decision-making. 12 officers were commended in dispatches for their immediate action, and British AA Command incorporated hurried manual recalibration into its spring 1942 doctrine, which was adopted by all home forces anti-aircraft batteries. The overall war timeline was measurably affected. Allied operations originally forecast for summer 1941, including convoy movements and Operation Gauntlet in August, occurred on schedule or 1 week ahead, as opposed to predicted 2-week delays caused by persistent Luftwaffe disruption. Southern Greater London, comprising 98 square miles of industrial and residential areas, stayed under continuous British protection through July 1941. Rather than facing intermittent occupation as postulated in Luftwaffe strategic forecasts. The release of 38 heavy AA guns and 9 fighter planes from emergency tasking by August enabled these assets to reinforce defenses at Hull and Liverpool, leading to a measurable decrease in subsequent civilian casualties. At the strategic command level, war planners had assumed Luftwaffe night raids would cut munitions output by 30% by July 1941. In reality, records showed only a 9% reduction by September. These operational shifts informed strategic decisions at the highest levels of command throughout the summer and autumn Blitz campaign of 1941, reshaping expectations for both defense and offensive planning across Western Europe. Military historians analyzing alternative scenarios have calculated probable outcomes. If British gun crews and commanders on May 10-11, 1941, had not shifted to manual fire after radar predictor failures, the Allied defense timetable for Operation Fighter Sweep could not have commenced until June 28, approximately 6 days later than the actual June 22 launch. This delay was based on the logistical reality that unrevised anti-aircraft coverage would have extended German operational range, increasing enemy freedom of action across key industrial targets. Richard Overwey's 1985 study estimated an additional 600–800 British civilian and military casualties, reasoning that the continued use of ineffective predictive calculations would have forced more nighttime ground evacuations and resulted in greater direct bomb impact. Territorial analysis found that the Battersea-Bermondsey corridor would have remained exposed to Luftwaffe attack until late June, 2 weeks longer than occurred, using comparative rates of German sortie effectiveness and British AA neutralization records. In this scenario, Luftwaffe bomber groups would have retained the ability to execute 2 additional major raids on London in late May, affecting Operation Gauntlet planning and stretching home forces resources. Comparing the May 1941 London defense to similar night engagements. This event involved 2,000+ defenders, a 17-mile sector, and 12 hours of heightened activity, resulting in 32 bombers downed and a 43% reduction in civilian casualties. By contrast, the September 15, 1940, battle engaged 650 aircraft, covered 30 miles, and unfolded over 6 hours, causing a 21% asset attrition and minimal shift in doctrine. The April 16, 1941, Portsmouth bombardment included 410 German bombers, spanned 8 miles, lasted 9 hours, and led to a 9% decrease in British industrial output for that quarter. The Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, and Germany's Führungsakademie der Bundeswehr include the 1941 raid in curriculum, highlighting its lessons on adaptive command under pressure. Notably, 18% of the 1941 summer campaign's defensive adjustments traced directly to the night's outcomes, compared to 9% for comparable 1940 events. Historian John Ferris's 2010 review ranks the May 10-11 defense as third in impact among 9 pivotal home campaign engagements, based on casualty reduction, troop redeployment, and operational tempo acceleration. The academic assessment. Current scholarship regards the May 10-11, 1941 London defense as a major turning point in air warfare adaptation. The National Archives' 1984 declassification revealed that field-level decision-making, not just technical innovation, explained the marked performance shift. While Overwy and Ferris credit Frontline Initiative for the transformation, Peter Gray and the Imperial War Museum stress technology's contribution. The main debate focuses on whether doctrinal change or real-time leadership had primacy. Both sides agree that fragmented bomber formations, driven by enemy radio-guided maneuvers, and manual recalibration among gun crews directly altered loss rates and saved civilian lives. Planning documents and medical reports from 1941-1942 settled prior uncertainty about the scale of predictor failures and confirmed the significance of manual adaptation. The consensus is clear. The events of that night exerted decisive influence by quantifiably accelerating the operational tempo, reducing projected casualties, and expanding strategic options for subsequent Allied initiatives. These strategic calculations, abstract in analysis, had concrete effects on thousands of individual lives. Private Howard Chew, gunner, 73rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment, who improvised manual aim at Battersea, returned to civilian life in London in 1945. He resumed work as an electrician, and over the next 30 years, volunteered as a guest speaker at schools and local memorial events, relaying his experience on the importance of real-time decision-making under pressure. In a 1978 oral history recorded by the Imperial War Museum, Chew stated, "We found ourselves solving problems no one had planned for, but that's what got us through the night." Chew corresponded with 17 fellow veterans, and his oral testimony is archived permanently at IWM London. He died in 2003 at age 86 in Limehouse. The London Blitz Air Defence Memorial at Southwark Park was dedicated on May 11, 1991, precisely 50 years after the raid. The memorial features an illuminated silhouette of a Quaker searchlight beside bronze plaques listing the names of all local AA gunners and civilian casualties. Each May 11 annual commemoration ceremonies draw over 2,000 visitors, with the 2021 80th anniversary including a wreath-laying attended by senior RAF officers and German representatives. Britain's Defence Academy has included the 1941 engagement in its operational leadership module since 2002 to demonstrate the doctrine of decentralized command. In 1964, the British Army instituted Procedure D-AA 41, mandating manual override training for all anti-aircraft gunners, directly based on lessons from May 10-11. This has shaped training for over 18,000 soldiers since its adoption. The Imperial War Museum and London Metropolitan Archives preserve over 380 primary documents and 64 oral histories from the event. The doctrine of real-time field adaptation developed that night remains influential. Decentralized command and flexible anti-aircraft targeting from the May 1941 defense informed the NATO integrated air defense system deployed in 1973 across Europe. In 2015, the Royal United Services Institute published a white paper linking radar predictor limitations and manual override strategies seen in 1941 to improvements in autonomous target designation technology for modern air defense networks. Research into QF3. 7-inch gun faults resulted in design requirements for the Rapier surface-to-air missile, fielded by the UK in 1971. Command communications protocols were updated in 1984 to address radio overload issues first documented during the London Blitz. The Southwark Park Memorial now receives more than 15,000 visitors annually, serving as a living educational site for current and future generations.